Bauer.
Here.
Commissioner Gage.
Here.
Commissioner Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Lynn.
Here.
Commissioner Osterhout. Commissioner Twardy.
Here.
Commissioner Lynn.
Move to excuse Commissioner Brent.
Support.
Move support. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If those with cell phones, if they would please put them on vibrate or silence them, we would appreciate it. Thank you. At this time, we have item number 1, which is the proclamation Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I'll ask Kaylin Carnes to join me at the podium, please. I'll read the proclamation and I'll just give you a chance to say a few words too. City of Sault Ste. Marie proclamation declaring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is a serious crime that affects people of all races, ages, gender, and income levels. And whereas domestic violence is widespread and affects over 4 million Americans each year. And whereas 1 in 3 Americans have witnessed an incident of domestic violence. And whereas children that grow up in violent homes are believed to be abused and neglected at a rate higher than the national average. And whereas domestic violence costs the nation billions of dollars annually in medical expenses, police and court costs, shelters, foster care, sick leave, absenteeism, and non-productivity. And whereas only a coordinated community effort will put a stop to this heinous crime. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for citizens to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations, individuals who provide critical advocacy services and assistance to victims. Now therefore be resolved that I, Anthony G. Bosworth, Mayor of the City of Sault Ste. Marie, proclaim the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and urge the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie to work together to eliminate domestic violence from our community. In witness thereof, I hereby set my hand to cause the seal of the City of Sault Ste. Marie to be affixed this 3rd day of October 2016. Anthony G. Bosworth, Mayor. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for declaring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. A little history on Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It originally started as the Day of Unity, which was first held in October 1981, in which it only focused on women and children because this was originally seen as a women's issue, but really it's a community issue. They had 3 main goals, and it was to mourn the people who had died because of domestic violence, celebrate the survivors, and connect with those working to end the violence. It later led into being a full awareness week, and in October 1987 they had their first Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we have added another goal onto Domestic Violence Awareness Month of increasing community awareness and engagement in ending domestic violence. We encourage everyone to wear purple throughout the month. Purple is the domestic violence awareness color. On average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States, which during 1 year, this equals more than 10 million men and women being physically abused. We have 3 events scheduled for this month. One of them was just this past Saturday. On the 1st, we had the Twin Saults put domestic violence in the penalty box with Sioux Eagles and Sioux Thunderbirds. We had over 450 people attend the game, but we do have 2 more events coming up. On Monday, October 17th at 5 p.m., we have our annual Domestic Violence Awareness Walk with Sioux Tribe Advocacy Resource Center at the Naganagizik building at 5 p.m., which is the cultural building over by the Big Bear. And then that Friday, October 21st, JCPenney's In Style Salon and Sephora are doing an event called Dying to End Domestic Violence, and they're actually offering to put free streaks of purple into people's hair. So if anyone would like to have their hair partially dyed purple, please feel free to stop in on the 21st of October. But we'd love to see all of you at the walk as well on the 17th. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Before we get to item number 2, the city manager has informed me that they'd like to add an agenda item. As we're all aware, it needs in this case, 6-0 vote, unanimous vote to add an agenda item. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the city manager's report, city administration would respectfully request that the city commission add item G, which would provide for calcium chloride brine pump improvements at the Polar to respond to urgent needs that have arisen at the facility.
Okay. Is there, Commissioner would like to make that as a motion? Commissioner Gage?
I so move.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Any question on the agenda? And we'll get a chance to speak to the agenda, but any questions on the process? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosfus?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. So item number 2, a public comment on scheduled agenda items. Any person may wish reserve time to speak on an agenda item not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Is there anyone in the audience like to comment on an agenda item? Wayne? In addition to, okay. At that time is item number under 5B. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Item number 3 is the consent agenda. Yes.
Under the consent agenda, A, minute approval. 1, approval of the minutes of the regular city commission meeting of September 19th, 2016. Recommended action, approve the minutes of the regular city commission meeting of September 19th, 2016. Item 2, acceptance of the minutes of the following boards and commission. A, Downtown Development Authority of August 10th and September 14th, 2016. And B, Planning Commission of August 25th, 2016. Recommended action, accept the minutes of the various boards and commissions. Item B, appointments and resignations. 1, resignation from the Local Development Finance Authority. Recommended action, accept the resignation of Sherry Brooks from the Local Development Finance Authority for a term that is set to expire on December 31st, 2017, and send a letter of thanks for her service to the board. Item 2, resignation from the Planning Commission. Recommended action, accept the resignation of Megan Kelly from the Planning Commission for a term that expires April 19, 2017, and send a letter of thanks for her service to this board. Item 3, resignation from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Recommended action, accept the resignation of Chris Sabos from the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term that is set to expire on June 1, 2017, and send a letter of thanks for his service to this board. Item C, communications. 1, from the Planning Commission. Recommendation to approve a proposed lot split by Larry Bittner to create 2 100-foot by 120-foot parcels from the north 120 feet of lots 6 through 10 inclusive, Block 3, St. Paul Addition. Recommended action, approve the proposed lot split as requested. Item 2 under communications is from Community Action Human Resource Authority. MDOT Master Agreement number 2017-0124. Recommended action, authorize the city manager and city clerk to execute MDOT Master Agreement number 2017-0124. Item D, special orders of business. 1, scheduling of a public hearing for SL-2N-16 and SL-2W-16 to confirm single lot special assessments. Recommended action, set a public hearing date on the confirmation of SL-2N-16 and SL-2W-16 for the November 7th, 2016 regular city commission meeting. Item E, city manager's report. 1, authorization of a retainer agreement with Award Consultants LLC, doing business as Abilita. Recommended action, authorize the city manager to execute the presented renewal agreement with Abilita for a 12-month term at a cost of $900 per month.
Okay, thank you. Is there a commissioner who would like something further explained on the consent agenda? If not, Commissioner Twardy.
I so move that we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Commissioner Twardy.
Just a quick comment. I just wanted to make note to item E1 under the city manager's report and just say that when I read through the amount of money that the city has been able to save through utilizing this contract. I just think that that's pretty astounding, and I'm glad to renew that contract with them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Just so that we brought that item up, do you know what the amount was, Commissioner Tornier?
I thought it was
City
close to
manager?
120.
I know it was significant.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question, Commissioner Twardy. There were savings approximating $260,000. Under the contractual arrangement, a portion of that was remitted to Abilita, which performed the work. However, the city retained the savings of about 50%. Moving forward, those are significant savings for the future that has improved overall our IT infrastructure.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and support. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage,
Yes.
Commissioner Gary.
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Bospas.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item 4, special orders of business. A, introduction and first reading of an ordinance to rezone certain land owned by JM Superior LLC from R1 to B3, approximately 1.29 acres, and from RSV to B3, approximately 0.52 acres, and scheduling of a second reading for the October 17, 2016 regular City Commission meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. City Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. On this matter, I requested that Community Development Director Freeman present to the City Commission.
Okay. Evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So this request affects Lake Superior Estates Mobile Home Park, which is just on the east side of Ashman, north of the Tribal Health Center. Near as I can tell, this is a kind of a last fix to somebody's screw-up from 1974, which resulted in the park being built about 50 feet further north than they intended. You can kind of see the area we're talking about here in the two squares. Back in 1998 and 99, the park went through the process to actually take legal ownership of that area. However, one thing they did not do as part of that was change the zoning of those areas. As you can see, the area on the left is R1 and the area on the right is RSV, and neither of those areas permit mobile home parks as a use permitted by right or otherwise. The current owner of the park is looking at selling it, and through the due diligence process, this issue came to light. And of course, when you're talking about a transaction of this size, a kind of sort of answer to is it allowed or not is not acceptable. They want a yes, an unqualified yes. So to resolve the issue, they submitted this rezoning request. Went to the Planning Commission last month where there was a unanimous recommendation to approve. The only phone call I received on it was just a curious property owner who, once I explained that this is basically just a paper change, nothing is going to change on the ground at all, was perfectly fine with it. Obviously, when you're talking about changes to the zoning ordinance or to the zoning map, you want to look at your master plan, which anticipated that this area here would remain a single family, low density. However, that master plan was done before the ownership issue and zoning issues came to light. So in this circumstance, I think it's appropriate to review it in the circumstances and kind of set that recommendation aside just for this specific instance. So the recommendation tonight is to have the first reading of the ordinance and then schedule a second reading for October 17th.
Okay, thank you. City Manager, do you have any additional comments?
Nothing further. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gage.
I so move that the City Commission holding a first reading, is that where we're at? Holding a first reading of the ordinance and schedule a second reading for the October 17th, 2016 regular City Commission meeting.
Support. It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gage,
Yes.
Commissioner Gary.
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Bospas.
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
Item 5, communications. A, from the Downtown Development Authority, request for resolution of support to apply for SHPO nomination services.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. On this matter, DDA Director Nepper is planning to present to the City Commission.
Okay. Evening, Justin.
Good evening. All right. The historic district nomination. It's a pretty interesting goal that the Downtown Development Authority has been working on for the past 4 years since I've actually been here, and it dates back efforts date back to, I believe, the early 2000s. The National Park Service offers a program called the National Register of Historic Places, and then there's also a National Register of Historic Districts, and then there's also a local register of historic places and districts, and that's administered by the state of Michigan. And that's not what we're talking about tonight. We're only talking about the National Register, and the National Register is run by the National Park Service, and there's a couple benefits that come with it. One is, in general, just a general marketing and feel-good effort by the National Park Service to showcase historic properties throughout the country. And so here in Chippewa County, we actually have, I think I looked on, it's actually a Wikipedia website. There's about 20 locations, everything from the Charlotte River Bridge to City Hall to the Chippewa County Courthouse. Most of our churches are on the list, and those have no restrictions placed on them by the National Park Service. It's just purely a kind of a feel-good thing, and usually the starting point for people to start creating local historic districts or local historic listings around those places. But one of the big benefits that the Downtown Development Authority has been interested in is what's called a National Register Historic Commercial District, and it would encompass all of our historic commercial buildings throughout downtown Sault Ste. Marie. We have close to 140 historic buildings. Many of them aren't unique enough or have enough character to stand on their own as a historic place, like City Hall, for example, but because they're a part of a whole string of commercial buildings all connected, it becomes a historic district, and the district as a whole is worth noting as a historic place. Of course, Sault Ste. Marie, we've been around since 1668. Our downtown is one of the oldest commercial historic downtowns. You know, Water Street, if you walk the Water Street walkway, that's where the downtown was in the beginning. Giant fire burned it all down. We had to rebuild, on Portage and Ashman. And so what's kind of led the effort on this is our facade restoration grants that we received through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. A few years ago, we were able to get qualified for facade grants through the state that came in at about 75% of the total cost, and that's what our 5 buildings that received grants a few years ago that are just finishing up: Paul Brewster's building, Island Books and Crafts, the Historical Society, A Cut Above the Rest, and UP Engineers and Architects. Those all received a 75% grant for the total cost. And then right after that happened, if anybody followed state news, the state decided to look at the MEDC, decided that they had way too much money and way too many people that were making too much money, and they slashed the budget and came back to us the next year and said, hey, next time you apply for these, you're only going to get 50% grants. And so we started looking at how can we make sure that our property owners who maybe don't necessarily receive a high value back for investing in their buildings. It's not like it's going to make the cash register ring any stronger right off the bat. How can we make sure it's still worth it for them to invest in their buildings? And the National Register Historic District comes with one big financial benefit, which is 20% tax credit from the federal government for every single building that's in the district. So many buildings that are on the National Register don't qualify because they're either government-owned or nonprofits like a church or like the City Hall. So it's just kind of on the list. But if you're a privately owned business and you invest in your building, it allows you to receive 20% of your federal taxes back to you in a credit over the period of years it takes to recoup the 20%. So that's one of the biggest benefits. It's stackable with all the state money, so you can receive the 50% facade grant, for example, and then you could receive on top of that a 20% federal tax credit. And this is all on the National Park Service's website. There is zero restriction, zero rules or regulations. The only time that someone would be required to operate in terms of fixing up their building based on the National Park Service's historic requirements is if they want the federal tax credit. So if I own a building and it's in the historic district and I want to tear it down tomorrow, I can do that. If I want to paint it purple, I can do that. But if I want 20% of my taxes returned to me, I can't paint it purple and I can't tear it down. I'd have to do that according to their historic restoration requirements. So it's just purely an option for property owners in the historic district to receive the tax credit if they so chose to restore the building in a historic manner. So we have I've been working with a number of agencies and organizations actually for quite some time. Oops. The Chippewa County Historical Society started helping us 4 or 5 years ago. They did a tremendous amount of work on the project. It requires writing pretty much a book. It'll probably be about a 150-page book, one pager on every single building, who built it, when it was built, what it was made from, what businesses were in the building over the last 100, 200 years, the architectural style, all sorts of information on each of our historic buildings would be in this. And so the Historical Society devoted quite a bit of time to it. The Bayless Public Library devoted quite a bit of time to it, all pro bono. We had a few interns that the DDA had involved over the last few years that did quite a bit of research. And so what happened was, writing that book takes a lot of time. It's valued at about $50,000 in terms of what it usually costs to bring in a historic consultant. That's how many other cities get it done. So we were trying to do it for free, and kind of it's taken a lot of time. This year, about 2 weeks ago, the State Historic Preservation Office, which administers the National Park Service's programs, called us and said, hey, we just came in with some money. We're offering 3 communities the chance to apply for us to come in and bust out your application for you. Doesn't mean you're going to get in, but very good chance that we would. They would write the whole thing based on the Historical Society and the Public Library and the DDA's research that we've gathered so far. Talk to all the property owners, get all the information put together, and come up with the nomination application and get it submitted. So that's what we're working on. We want to apply for, and that's what I'm asking for support for tonight, is to support the idea of establishing a historic district and send in an application to the state asking them to pick us for the grant application for the nomination. So this, one of the application requirements is a map that shows our suggested area, and then a number of historic photos of our downtown. So this is the map. Please ignore the red boundary. That's the Downtown Development Authority boundary. We are looking specifically at the purple buildings, and then there are some gray buildings. And there's 2 different types of buildings. One are called contributing buildings. Those are buildings that are built 50 years ago or late or earlier. And then non-contributing buildings would be those that are built earlier than in the last 50 years, that happen to be next to those contributing buildings, and they connect the dots between all the historic buildings. So you can see, for example, on the far left corner, Carl's Cuisine is the very farthest building out on the western tip. That is older than 50 years. The ship, I think, dates back to the 1940s, and then it runs down throughout the district. You can see, I don't know if you can see right where the mouse is, across from the Weather Bureau building. I believe it's number 108, and then 71 is next to that, and that's Carol Asquith's building where Fudgy's Ice Cream is. That was built in the 70s, so the building to the left of it, the Seven Seas Motel, is historic, and the building to the right of it, which is the Lockview Motel, is historic, but in the middle, it's a non-contributing building, but it would be part of the district. So only those buildings would qualify that are 50 years old or older, but the rest of them are in the historic district. So this map, in general, you would see the actual boundary of the district match the purple buildings in general, kind of running along the back side of the parcels that are shaded purple. It goes down. Our proposed boundary would run down to the old, it was called the Brown Stop and Shop, which is now, it was a cut above the, Color Me Beautiful 2, and then it was Up North Nutrition right next to Checkered Flag on the corner of Ann Street. So that would be the most historic building going south, and then generally just all the buildings that border Ashland and Portage. So we still have a little bit of work to do on this map, but that gives you a general feeling of where the buildings would be. And then these are the before and afters, if you will, or historic and current views. So that's the corner of Spruce and Ashland looking north. And this is it today with Arfstrom's on the right and Park Place City Center on the left. So you can see actually there's quite a bit of those buildings still remaining. Here is just farther south on the block next to the Huntington Bank building and where Avery Square is currently, and this is, again, it shows you we have a pretty similar style. You can still see Community Action Agency retained the old Nordyke store in its historic form on the left, and the tribe still has those buildings on the right that were there prior as well. And then here is the Barish's block, and where Gamble's used to be, and now that's 313. Those buildings are primarily still there, although we lost a lot of the buildings to the right and north where that park is. And then here's the block down by where Co-ed Flowers currently is. And this it's back a little bit onto Library Drive, but you can see on the left, Gilhooley's Pharmacy is still there, Chandler's office, and all those buildings there. And then this goes even farther on the right where Sherwin-Williams is today. Looking right, many of those buildings are still there. And then this is way up on the north end looking south. That's where Paul Brewster's building is. And Madigan Pingator is now currently on the right side where that little brick wall is and some of those buildings that used to be there. But you can see we still have, and we're restoring that whole block. That's where we've done a lot of our facade restoration money projects. And then this is on Portage looking east towards City Hall. And you can see that was right before the fire that burned the top of Island Books. I'm sorry, nope, this is Alpha Bar looking west on Portage. That's the old National Bank. Alpha Bar on the left, Alpha Edition, and so this picture actually we have to switch it because we got confused on what building that was. But you can see that's the Island Books and Crafts on the right. And then here is the old Park Place Motel, I believe it was called, where Molehole currently is. And that is now there on the right, but we still have most of those historic buildings as well. So our district is still in very good shape overall. This is the block where China Kate and Harmony Health Foods is, and most of those buildings are still there as well, except for the Strand Theater that burned, I believe, back in the 70s. And then you have a few others. This is Spruce Street, where Penny's Kitchen currently is. The Belvedere Hotel, I believe, burned. And we have to fix that picture. And then here is Arlington Street Evening News. The Sioux News is there. So these are just general shots of downtown throughout the community. And these are what help this historic office get a feeling of how historic our building is. So anyway, this runs through quite a bit of all of our different districts. And that's the general proposed area, is your traditional historic downtown area. And then I just wanted to show you kind of what would be required if a building wanted to use the historic tax credits. If they are in the district, they would have the option to say, we want to restore our building historically, and then at that point, that building owner would work with the Downtown Development Authority or the city or whomever was helping them and come up with, based on national historic preservation guidelines, the idea of what would need to be done to get their tax credit. So this is Paul Brewster's building, and these buildings already had to be reviewed by the State Historic Preservation Office to get the facade grants. So we went through exactly what they would require for the future. So this building, we sat down with them and they said, okay, you can see the bottom is a cinder block and small windows, and you can almost see where it was just filled in, kind of like someone would fill in an open porch. And then the top, each window was blocked in. You can see a chunk of cement in between the smaller window and the top, what's called a keystone arch. And those were the only two things that worried the historic office when we applied for that grant. And so when it was all done, we were able to bring it back to this based on historic photos. You can see that the windows were enlarged on the top, and up to the keystone arch we put in new windows. And then when we ripped all that cinder block off the front, we found the cast iron posts that were buried inside there, and all we had to do was build the wooden or the walls and insert those windows back in between each post. And so Mr. Brewster was not able to qualify for the tax credit when he did this project through the federal government because we didn't have the district in place. But in the future, he would have been able to not only receive the facade grant, but also receive the tax credit. So that's the general gist of the program. Again, there are zero restrictions from the National Park Service on the buildings unless they wanted the free tax credit. It's only when when cities decide to appoint local historic districts and create a local historic commission is when your neighbors in general are the ones that start saying, hey, you're not allowed to paint your door purple, or you're not allowed to, put vinyl siding on that building, or whatever it is. And that's generally where there are certain times where there's a little bit of bad publicity about historic districts. It's always it's always because of those local historic commissions that are set up that really enforce the rules, if you will. And those, in my personal opinion, have a tremendous amount of benefit, especially for our historic community, but that's not what we're pushing for. So that's my goal, is to get the National Historic District in place for downtown, apply to the state and ask them for this consultant to come in and help us finish up the project, and then we would hopefully receive nomination through the National Park Service and be able to qualify all of our buildings for that 20% tax credit.
Any questions of Justin at this point? Thank you, Justin.
Thanks.
City Manager, if you'd like to read those 3 recommendations, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. The 3 recommendations are as follows. First, that the City Commission pass a resolution of support for the Historic District nomination and in support of the establishment of a National Register Historic Commercial District in downtown Sault Ste. Marie. Secondarily, designate Community Development Director Freeman and DDA Director Nepper to provide assistance to SHPO consultants assigned to the project if the city is selected. And third, designate a member of the Historic Development Commission and/or a member of the Chippewa County Historical Society to provide assistance to SHPO consultants assigned to the project if the city is selected.
Okay, thank you. And in discussion with the city attorney, that can be one motion. Commissioner Bauer.
So move we pass the city manager's recommendations.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there questions? Commissioner Gage.
I guess the only comment I've got is that this was a fantastic presentation. I certainly want to say that I appreciate the hard work that Director Nepper has done on putting this together. And it's, to be frank, it's heartbreaking looking at the old photos of what was here. And I didn't live in that town, unfortunately. I didn't get to experience a lot of those beautiful old structures. And I see it as incredibly important to do what we can to preserve the buildings that we do have, so that my kids can someday not feel the same way I'm feeling right now.
Anyone else? Just, I see Les in the audience, and I think he's the only owner of the 6, I think there's 5 or 6 buildings that are being done under that facade restoration. And Les, your building is, Island Books and Crafts, is really, really beautiful. It's come back, and the little office off to the, on Ashman, which used to be, I think, the Chamber of Commerce when, many years ago. The glass that you see now above it, and the windows up above, it's really, when you look at the Chippewa County Historical Society, and certainly the attorney's office, and then this one, and then down on the old Volvers building, which is UP Engineers and the hairdresser. Those facade grants really work, and Justin, you're to be commended for going after that, and your staff, who, you've had some help with that for sure. But and we've talked about this historical district before as a commission years back, and I think we turned it down because of the red tape, the regulations. This sounds, nothing like we had looked at previously, and I know it's been a lot of years since then. If everyone has a opportunity that wants to participate, can, and the ones that don't also cannot do that, then that's a good thing. But there's no question that the folks that have so far been involved in the restoration going on, and then the company that you have working to do those kind of restorations is doing a unique job in being able to bring back the character of those buildings. Great job, Commissioner Bauer.
If we had done this a few years ago, I could own a gas station right now.
Yeah, true. Well, yeah.
That's way more lucrative.
Yeah. Anyone else? Motion and support. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Bosman.
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item B under communications is from Mr. Denny Doherty, update on improvement projects.
Okay, we are really happy tonight to have Dennis here. If we recall, he was here probably back in March or April of this year, talking about
March, I
what
think.
is possible. And I guess I'll just lead into introducing you, since I don't know if the city manager was just going to do that, but you're responsible for a number of things in this community that have been just tremendous. So, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and of course, we had over 70-some volunteers, and, you know, just a community support for this whole thing, including starting here. In March, when you guys gave us the go-ahead, we went out and raised funds, and then started to get to the big task of getting the applications done for permits. And so I really appreciate you getting on it and letting us kind of turn us loose on it. But this was a team effort by a lot of entities in this community, and I'll get into that briefly. I'm just wondering here, yeah, if we could just scroll a few of these pictures. You'll see some of the projects we worked on. This is a floating dock system, and we had to use a pile driver here and put it in, and there's taking it out,
Dennis,
a couple boats.
can you get a little closer to the
Oh, I'm
mic?
sorry.
Those for folks
Oh, I
at
can see it
home.
on here too, okay.
Okay.
We have a couple boats here pulling out our floating dock system along with the outhouse on it. I call it an outhouse, it really wasn't. It was a compost toilet system. Here's a shot putting in the boardwalk. We put a 120-foot long boardwalk in. And this is a good shot here. Here's John. He's working, we had a lot of volunteers. The first month we did this, we had at least 20 volunteers per weekend cleaning up the island. And so that worked really well. Then this is the compost toilet system. It's a little different than an outhouse. It's built above ground. Believe it or not, that's the new way to do it. It doesn't smell, and my wife has a better smeller than I do, and she said it doesn't. So these are built around the country now. This is the latest thing. So you have to try it out, folks. This is the observation platform. Tom Allen, the biologist at the college, took us along this shoreline. We kind of picked a spot. He said there's a bird flyaway over this area, so we put the platform there. And just up here, about 50 feet from that, is the boardwalk. So you can walk the boardwalk to the observation deck here. And of course, we had to cut a lot of trees. Some of the trails were already there from probably back in the 30s, and some weren't. So we kind of cleared things out. And is that it? Okay. We also had some drone videos. I guess we didn't get them on here, but we had a few that may be on our website somewhere someday, and really shows a great view of Voyager Island as you're approaching it. And so I hope we can.
We don't
get
have
that.
the, I saw a video, I don't know if it was on a city's website or something.
I can send the link.
Yeah, because that video was excellent.
Yeah.
And I thought we were going to maybe show
Yeah, I
that
kind of thought
tonight.
it was here too, but it, you know, you can go to it, I guess, and.
Well, we'd like to show it if we can get it on the,
Is it Kelly Freeman back there? I can email it to you right now. I got the link.
Oh, well, very
well,
good.
while Denny's,
And
while
I'll,
Denny's
yeah, I'll go
talking,
through a
maybe
few things here.
Could you, we'd like to have that while you know, what,
Okay.
go ahead and talk, and then, it's only about, what?
A minute or so,
Yeah.
a couple minutes.
Couple minutes.
And so then I guess I'll get into the big thank you. We ran a half a page in the evening news thanking all of those who have donated the money, the materials, the equipment, and the volunteers. And we're going to make that same kind of a plaque at Rotary, Harvey, and on Voyager Island, so that all the people that have been involved in this will be recognized. So that's another thing we want to do. I want to also say thanks to the city. It was not easy getting all these applications in. It took a while, but it was so critical to get them in early so that we'd have the summer to build everything and make the deadline for the grant. And we did. It was close, but we got through and made the deadlines we had to make. The CDC, that's supported by the Sioux Tribe, really did a lot of work. They had a fiduciary, which was Eastern Regional Planning Commission, and basically Mary Ellen Hemming and Ellen Benoit were the two people who handled trafficking, how we got all this money through and did the invoices and whatever. And to them, a lot of credit goes because they were behind the scenes, and you probably didn't hear or see these people, but they really made things happen, and I really appreciate it, and so do the volunteers. And so that was important. And also, of course, a big thanks to the 70-some volunteers that were out there. That first month, it was incredible. I didn't expect that many people coming out to help out. After that, we changed gears, and we offered anybody that had a little skill in carpentry, and we ended up with about 12 core carpentry people who showed up throughout the rest of the summer. Of the 1,700 hours, I would say they put in 70% of the hours to build all of the facilities, the dock, the boardwalk, the toilet, and the observation deck. And if it's okay, I'd just like to read these 12 names because really they helped a tremendous amount. Start off with Jim O'Donnell, John Asquith, Bill Batchelor, Ron Blair, Craig Flickinger, Kelly Freeman, back here, Mark Horner, Rocky Krieger, Chuck Kirch, Jeff Lozen, Ted Walker, and Jerry Wilson. And they showed up weekly throughout the summer, and you know we had a hot summer. I mean, they said this was the second hottest September we've had ever, but we had some heat waves, and it was 85 degrees and 85 humidity, and these guys were there, and gals, and we had, and it wasn't just guys, we've had a lot of work bees where half of the crew ended up, the females would come out and help us, and so it was just a great community effort, and I can't say enough about these people. It was more than just a handful. It was a whole unit of the donors, the administrators, and the volunteers that put all this together.
Did you have pontoon boats to get these folks back and forth, or how did they all
Most
get over?
people had their own way, kayaks or canoes, and then I had my little 12-foot boat with a little motor on it and shuttled people, and then we had volunteers come in with their bigger boats to pull the rafts and stuff. We had to get the lumber over there, and that was kind of a logistical thing, you know, of getting all the lumber on and get it down to the island to build the boardwalk and whatever. And we decided to assemble the compost toilet actually in my yard, and we loaded it onto a raft. It was a lot easier to build things on the mainland where we had all the power. We did have generators and stuff, but it was easier, just like I said, on land. Then we'd haul the stuff to the island and assemble it. The dock was assembled and then put, you know, in the water and then hauled off to the
I know
island.
you had just a ton of pictures that we
Yeah,
saw.
I tried to keep Oliver and
Yes.
everybody in the loop here of what we were doing, and if he saw a red flag, he'd say, hey, no, don't do this, and I didn't want to go off and be some rogue volunteer here doing something you guys didn't want.
No,
So we
it's
tried to keep
tremendous.
everybody in the loop, and so far it looked like things worked out.
Okay, are we ready for the video?
We are.
Let's do the video and then we'll come back to you.
Okay. On the right, you can see the dock coming up. That's Voyager Island dock right there. It's a special ADA compliant dock that allows people with handicaps to go into that slip, and there's bars, there's handicap bars to pull yourself out. We're going to tweak it a bit for next year. We learned, I really called all around the country to find out what would be the best system for us and to handle the conditions here. The water drops 16 inches when a lake freighter goes by. We had to have something heavy duty, and we got it. You can be standing on this dock and a lake freighter can go by and you don't even know it. Had we done other systems where you'd have to jump up to get onto the dock because it wasn't hinged, we probably would have had some problems. So as it turned out, this system, I think, works quite well for what we have here. We're going to install a dock on Rotary Island, a floating dock, ADA compliant. In the spring, we have the money already there, and we might even build some of it this fall, but we've got till May 24th to have the Corps of Engineers and the DEQ to approve it. So basically, we'll start it probably in early May, and it'll take us a week to build it. So there will be a rotary dock, and then there's, of course, the Harvey dock, which we already have the ramp in, and the high school students right now are finishing up that dock, and they will have it done probably in about 2 weeks. So this is very scenic. If you haven't had a chance to get to the island here, I think you'll appreciate the scenery we have. We have over a mile of hiking trails, and this is that slip I was talking about. You can slide in there and get out of your canoe or kayak. We're going to make it a little wider. The one we have here was 3 feet wide. We're going to make it wider to handle more canoes and stuff. You can walk the trail, we call Freighter Trail, and sit on a bench here and watch the lake boats go by. It seems like you're just a few hundred feet from the boats when they pass by. It's really beautiful in here. Oh, you do have all these pictures. A lot of wetlands and nature areas. There's deer all over the southern part of this island. We've seen porcupines and all kinds of wildlife. So it's really a semi-wilderness island within our city limits, which is kind of unique. And so I hope that we don't overdevelop it personally, keep it kind of at a, like some people can go out and enjoy the nature of it. And this is right at the dock area, the landing site, and looks like some people leaving the dock. Any questions you might have, or?
It's just such great water. It's so protected in
Oh,
that,
yeah.
It's normally calm, so it's great for kayaking and canoeing, I would guess.
In fact, that is an advantage of this area. You can be a novice and go out here first time, and you can go to this site. You don't have to travel out in rough waters and stuff like that.
Great. Kathy, or I'm sorry, Commissioner Quarty.
That's okay. I know that I'm not speaking alone, and when I say this, and I know that we've given you compliments before, but you're really one of those gems in a community that, oh my gosh, we can't thank you enough for everything that you continue to do for our community and for this. And this was just you and Wayne Barry coming together, putting your heads together, and just making this happen. So thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'll tell you, there's over 100 people behind the scenes and hard-working people. This summer, I'll tell you, it gives you energy when you're working alongside people that get out and do that. And so, actually, it's a team effort, so I appreciate that. But
Yeah.
I guess there's no question that it takes a team,
Yes.
to do stuff like this, but
Yes.
it needs a leader, and you've been that person. And same with the Sault Seal Recreation, Minneapolis Woods, and the amount of earth that you moved up there. Now it's a place for tubing and for. That was a few years back, but you were the instigator in that whole thing, and it's just a number of things that when you said, and we talked about, when you said you were going to do this thing, and you had a group of people that wanted to volunteer and get grants and that stuff, and now we're here 6 months later or so, and it is what you said it was going to be, and it's tremendous.
well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Commissioner Gage.
I remember back in March when you came and we talked about this, and we looked at the timeline, and you said you were going to have work begin and almost be completed by July. And I thought then, that's really a nice thought, but I don't know, And to see this amount of progress in 6 months is fantastic. I hope you keep doing things like this, because you are a tremendous asset in our community. And whatever you need from us, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thanks so much. And thanks for your time. Anything else? Okay,
Great,
thank you.
Great job. Thank you. We have a recommendation, Commissioner Lynn.
So move the city, I got a question first.
Sure.
The Lynn Trail is on there. Am I allowed to vote on that? It's,
The Lynn Trail's on I would think it's a good thing.
Yes, you are, because it's not named after you.
yes, it is. It's the William Lynn Trail.
I was kidding you.
Oh. You gotta, I'm finishing my 28th year with this guy. He has never made a joke yet, and now he picks tonight. Okay. I'd just like to thank Denny for not naming it the William Lynn Memorial Trail. I so move the City Commission formally accept ownership and responsibility for all improvements made at Voyager, Huron Islands, and at Lynn Trail.
Support.
Been moved support. Are there any additional comments or questions? Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Wayne wanted to say some. If you'd like to introduce yourself for the record, we'd appreciate it.
My name is Wayne Barry. I'm the founder of the SMART Group, which is Sault Ste. Marie Area Recreation Trails. And I'd like to thank the mayor and the commission for a chance to get up here and talk about this project. It's a huge one. I think Oliver gave you an image of a map project that shows the work being done on the south shore of Lake Superior. And it goes not only on the south shore, but completely around the lake. It includes the Canadian shore and the U.S. shore, so Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. There are over 400 access sites on Lake Superior, and while Denny was fighting mosquitoes and heat and humidity, Joanne and I took 6 weeks to go around Lake Superior this summer and inventory about 400 access sites on Lake Superior. The Voyager Island project is really a linchpin in this whole project. Ellen Benoit through Eastern UP did manage to get a CZM grant, Coastal Zone Management Grant, to complete the trail from Grand Marais to Sault Ste. Marie. If you look on the inside of this handout, you'll actually see a map of Lake Superior that has colored sections of the trail. And the yellow section in the lower right-hand corner was the last section of the water trail around Lake Superior to be finished. And that was done by Ellen Benoit and the Eastern UP Regional Planning Office. If you look at the map, this water trail map, all of the blue spots on there are what we call primary access sites. And if you'll notice, Sault Ste. Marie has 3 or 4 primary access sites like Sherman Park, Ashman Bay, Rotary Park, Voyager Island. And what constitutes a primary site is a place where medical facilities are available, food is available, housing is available, transportation is available, and camping is available. There's about 100 sites all the way around the lake. This is part of a binational project. Canada, it was stimulated by their 2017 150-year anniversary, those youngsters across the river. They got $1 million to develop sites on the North Shore. They did projects very similar to with walking trails and access docks and restrooms and picnic tables. On the South Shore, we have the same potential. We have the same projects going on. This year, while Joanne and I were going around the lake, Munising and Marquette had 1 million visitors.
Is that something?
And a large portion of that was for paddling, for non-motorized access to the waterways. You have a question?
You want to pull the mic toward you? There you go. Yeah.
Both Munising and Marquette this year did put in accessible dock systems. They'll go online next year, very complementary or very similar to what Denny's doing. And the way these are being used is not to paddle around Lake Superior, but for people to get in, explore the lower river, go through the islands, and then come back and get back out. There probably will be 0.1% of the people that try and paddle around the lake, but I'm not one of them. If you have any more questions, I'd be more than happy to do a more in-depth presentation on this project at some other time, but I really thank you for the opportunity to talk about this project. It's been supported, as Denny said, by the Sioux tribe and various steps along the way. There's been a lot of people involved. And thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you, Wayne. Yeah, it goes without question, I think, that we see the importance of and the amount of money that is brought into communities from paddleboarding, kayaking, canoeing, accessibility to water that is safe. And when you look at Munising, what they've been able to do, in Marquette and now Sault Ste. Marie with the addition of this beautiful area to see and the safe water, it should just continue to get busy and busier each summer going forward. And I'm sure Linda Holt would be also talking about that with the Convention and Visitors Bureau and the amount of rooms that are, rented because of the situation. So we thank you too, gentlemen, very much, and your families, for taking the time. Thank you very much. Going forward, great. Anyone else? We have a motion in support. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. That concludes we're into the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Item A under the city manager's report would provide for the award of a bid for Active Directory servers and access points. On this matter, I've requested the IT Director, Raffaele, address the City Commission.
Okay. Evening, Bonnie.
Hi. It's weird being on this side and being back there. On July 21st, 2016, there was 4 bids that came in for an Active Directory server. And you want me to explain what the Active Directory server is to y'all? Or just say it's a server?
We've read it.
You've read it?
I could use it.
I'll educate the public then, okay? Actually, it's like a Windows domain network. It serves to store information for our employees and that, and we can share information on it, files and documents, and put programs on it and that. It's really the heart of the network for communication. That's what an Active Directory server is. And then also included in the bid was for access points. And access points are the little devices you see around buildings where they allow you to connect to wirelessly and be able to go on the internet and things like that. Ours are outdated, our access points, the public part of one of them doesn't even work. So we're in dire need of access points. And our Active Directory server, storage-wise, is filling up. So we need to buy a new server to get more storage for all the technology I'm pounding into everybody. But we had 4 bids, and the lowest bid came in just under $31,000. It was $30,914.35. Unfortunately, that bid did not beat the specs. They did not provide the access points that were requested in the bid, so they were not chosen. The second was at $34,796.50, and this company threw a lot of red flags for me, just with past experience that we've had with them, and they could not give me a definite cost on what it was going to be to do the installation. In reading their documentation, I kept finding spots where they could charge us more money for like travel and lodging and that, because they subcontract out the installation to another company that is based out of Texas. So I don't feel comfortable with that. So that left the two more. One was at $37,695.04. And the other, NetLinks Business Solutions, at $38,796. The difference between the two was $1,100.96. The reason I'm recommending NetLinks, by the way, $43,000 was budgeted for this project, so we still are under budget by a few $1,000s with the recommendation of asking for NetLinks. But NetLinks has been with us for years. They were here before I even came here. When something's wrong and I can't figure it out, I call NetLinks. They actually taught me your network, because I had no diagrams of the network. I had hardly any documentation of your network here when I came on. And I would contact NetLinks, and they would email me the access point diagram. They email me the network diagram and that. So they have been with us. They know our network. I rely on them a lot for instances. So just that in itself, to me, their experience with us is worth well more than the $1,100. And I mean, security reasons, I'd have to give the other company the administrative passwords, and that NetLinks already has that. Actually, they gave me some of them. And our administrative passwords also rely on our some other programs that we have, like Clarity. If we change the password for the server, then I have to change the password for other programs because they depend on that password. And that would be time consuming. So. And with the new another company, I'd have to teach them our network. I'd have to, show them everything, and just my time alone would be well over the $1,100. So even though it's $38,796, I would like the commission to approve NetLinks for the installation and the purchase of the Active Directory server and access points.
Okay, any questions of Bonnie? Thank you.
Okay.
City Manager, anything additionally?
Nothing further. Certainly appreciate the time that IT Director Raffaelli put into researching this. Certainly after my discussions with her and Deputy City Manager Troyer, I believe it offers the best solution for the city's IT infrastructure and also achieves integrated savings between past institutional knowledge and allowing the IT director to prevent lost time from changing passwords and other situations.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gary.
I make a motion that the City Commission award the Active Directory server and access points bid to NetLinks Business Solutions in the amount of $38,796.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Commissioner Gary.
We don't have to waive any type of
No. City Manager?
with our purchasing policy?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Okay.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lind?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item B, under the city manager's report, would provide for the award of the design and installation of water treatment data transmission equipment. On this matter, DPW Director Morrow is presenting to the City Commission.
Evening, Jim.
Good evening. For close to 50 years, the city has relied on phone lines to transmit data between the water plant, the water towers, and the booster stations. And the data that we transmit are pump signals, when to turn on and off a pump, how much water is in the towers, and a number of alarm conditions that we have. For example, a low-level tank or a frozen water line that would allow the pumps to start. Anyway, so this communication between the facilities that we have at the treatment plant and the outlying buildings are extremely important. AT&T, our current provider for these phone lines, is not renewing any contracts that we have. For example, right now, our contract with them is about $490 a month. Proportionally, other municipalities that have these type of lines that we use, proportionally, our costs may be up to $7,000 a month. They're getting out of these type of lines by the year 2020. So the way they're getting out of it is they're making things very expensive for their users. So we just changed things over. AT&T wants to get out of the landline business. The writing's on the wall for that. So what we've done, the city has done through IT Director Raphael, we have had Charter Communications install phone lines at all these buildings at essentially the same monthly cost when in service as what we're getting now, about $490 a month. The problem is the Charter lines that we have are not compatible with the equipment that the treatment plant has. Originally, we thought, we were told by Charter that it was just a plug-in kind of system. They would take the place of the phone lines, plug it in, and our equipment would work. That's not the case. Our equipment uses technology from the 40s to the 90s. We use analog system and older, something called pulse duration, which has been around since World War II. It works great, but it's just not capable of transmitting over Charter lines. Charter only uses data signals over Ethernet. So we have to change our stuff over to make that signal work through the Charter stuff. Finding a company to do that now is also a difficult thing. So all of our equipment has to be replaced, our transmitting equipment and our data receiving equipment. And we needed to find a design build company. We don't have a design for it. We don't have, we are up against a rock on this one. We have to get this stuff working before these charges kick in. Regarding the cost on what we could be dealing with here, we're talking up to $80,000 a year just to transmit data from one point to another that we need to do. To put that into context, that's the combined chemicals, equipment maintenance, and supplies for the water treatment plant for 1 year. That's the same amount of money we're talking about just to transmit a signal back and forth. So we've been looking around to get a company to take care of this for us, and we finally found somebody, the Rasmus Electric out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. They came up, they did a design work for it. They gave us a quote to make the equipment work, and it came out to be $52,440. Now, that is not an insignificant amount, but This is something we've been budgeting for in the long term. We made CIP requests. It's in our CIP plan. We had intended on putting it in the second year of this budget, but it's probably going to be in in 3 years from now. It's something we've always planned on doing, so this is not a stopgap measure by any means. This is something we've been planning for a long time. Unfortunately, the loss of our phone lines are going to make us move that ahead a couple years. It's something that we did not plan right now. It's something we had planned in the long term, but we are kind of up against a wall right now. That's what we have to deal with right now. So what this is, I'm recommending that we contract with Rasmussen Electric out of Green Bay, Wisconsin, for the cost of $52,440 to make our equipment compatible, to install new equipment at the treatment plant, water towers, and the booster stations to make the charter equipment work, just to get our signals back and forth. Again, it's not something we had planned on right now. We plan on doing a couple, 3 years from now, but this is something that is going to be with us for a long time. We have equipment that's been working since 1968, 1969, and we intend on having this equipment work at least 2 to 3 decades. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Commissioner Gage?
So given that it would be transferred over in the internet, Ethernet, I'm guessing that the $486 per month that we've been spending on data would just no longer be an issue? We wouldn't have to pay any additional monthly costs?
Well, that's through AT&T. Our current costs right now are $486 a month through AT&T to put this data back and forth. The charter costs, I may refer to Bonnie. Did she just leave? Okay. She knew it that way. Hi, Bonnie. Okay, so it's about the same cost. Charter's going to charge us essentially the same thing as AT&T does. So the monthly charge is going to be the same. It's just that down payment for the equipment to get this stuff to work. But I really recommend that we consider the alternative that we may be facing here. Now, they haven't said it's going to happen yet, but other municipalities are getting hit with that.
Okay. City Manager, you have anything additionally that you'd like to address?
Nothing further except that the required funds to fund this project would come from the Water Equipment Reserve, and after the project completion, there would be a balance of just over $201,000 remaining in the reserve account for future projects.
Would you like to read the 2 recommendations?
Absolutely. The first recommendation would be to award Rasmussen Electric of Green Bay, Wisconsin, a contract for the design and installation of data transmission equipment at the water plant, water towers, and booster stations at a cost of $52,440, and secondarily authorize a transfer of $52,440 from Water Equipment Reserve for the completion of the work as presented, leaving a projected balance at the end of the fiscal year of $201,100 in this reserve account.
Okay, thank you. In discussion with the city attorney, those are 2 separate motions. Commissioner Torti.
Okay, thank you. I move that we approve the recommendation for Rasmussen Electric of Green Bay, Wisconsin, design and install data transmission equipment at the water plant, water towers, and booster stations at a cost of $52,440.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you, Commissioner Torti.
Thank you. And then I also move that we transfer $52,440 from the GL account to the from the Water Equipment Reserve, which currently has a balance of $253,600.
Support.
Been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item C, under the city manager's report, would provide for the passage of a resolution to designate certain portions of West 4th Avenue and South Street as being open to ORV use. On this matter, Community Development Director Freeman is planning to present to the Commission.
Welcome back.
Glad to be back. So back in March of 2015, the City Commission passed a resolution opening up certain parts of West 12th Street, South Street, the Ashland Bay Trail, and parts of Ashland Bay Park to ORV traffic. You can see that in green on the aerial on the TVs. Just for reference purposes, a little star will appear on the next map in the same place that it is on here, just so you can kind of get a spatial relationship for where things fit together. You can see the tail end of that now open route there at red in the upper right-hand corner. The blue shaded property is owned by Freeport McMoran, who through various mergers has inherited the property that was the old Northwestern Leather Tannery. The line in blue shows where Freeport and the DNR have entered into an easement agreement to allow snowmobile traffic to cross their property between the northern terminus of the Sioux Strongs Trail, which is right here, and the start of our open street network. Unfortunately, over the past year and change, the DNR has attempted to get some clarity from Freeport on whether or not they would entertain the idea of adding ORVs to snowmobiles to allow them to use that same easement. But discussions have been inconclusive and very sporadic. So the DNR has requested that we go around them, basically. With all the improvements that we've been talking about for Ashland Bay Park, one of the things that the DNR staff needs to demonstrate to be eligible for their internal funding is a legal means of access to it. So without that way to get there, the projects that we've been talking about for Ashland Bay Park are difficult to fund with DNR money, which is the whole reason we said yes anyway, because we wouldn't have to pay for it. So the plan is to open up the area shown in yellow by the yellow line, which would be a portion of West 4th Avenue, and then the balance of South Street to ORVs. Now the portion on West 4th Avenue would be confined only to the area north of the curb line, so they would not be in the street. I just want to point that out, and the DNR staff said that they'd be more than happy to work with us to install a trail and whatnot at their cost and maintain it at their cost in that grassy section on the north side of West 4th. So hopefully at some point we can resolve the issues with Freeport McMoran, but until that point in time, this is kind of our plan B. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? City Manager, you have anything further?
Nothing further. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. So that the recommendation would be to approve the included resolution. Commissioner Lynn.
So moved, we do just that.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Bosfus?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item D, under the City Manager's report, would provide for the adoption of Firefighters Unit Public Employee Healthcare Plan, also referred to as PEHP resolutions for distributions. The City of Sault Ste. Marie maintains 4 PEHP boards representing members for the following bargaining units: the Department of Public Works, Police Patrol, Police Command, and firefighters. Since these plans were established between 1999 and 2002, the funds have grown to a total value as of August 31st of $3,052,894.47. For the past few years, the PEHP boards and respective units have been in discussions regarding distributions to retirees. The Firefighters PEHP Board recommended utilizing the services of MERS to maintain individual retiree health savings accounts, which would be established for each retiree to then receive annual distributions from the PEHP funds and distribute amounts to reimburse eligible health care expenses. With the adoption of a similar resolution for the DPW PEHP fund, MERS ensured that the city and participants and all payments would remain tax exempt per IRS regulations, as they would be used only for eligible health care expenses. On September 22nd, the Firefighters PEHP Board accepted its actuarial valuation as of June 30, 2015, as prepared by Gabriel Roeder Smith and Company. The report notes that the amount of $618 times each year of service is to be paid annually to eligible retirees. The amount paid to individuals is computed based on the number of years they served under the plan to a maximum number of 25 years, with a maximum annual benefit of $15,450. There are currently 5 retirees eligible to draw, for a grand total first installment of $18,082.85. A second annual payment would be made in August of 2017 for retirees effective December 31st, 2016, and payments would be made annually going forward. The amount paid to retirees is to be adjusted with future actuarial valuations to keep the plan 100% funded. The firefighters' PEHP fund has a value of $491,979.88 as of August 31st, 2016. Both the revised participation agreement and requisite city resolution have been included for City Commission authorization. The city's PEHP fund, a trust fund, would send the first installment of retiree payments as soon as retirees' individual accounts are established with MERS. Accordingly, it's my recommendation that first the City Commission adopt the city resolution for the firefighters, PEHP, and the MERS participation agreement, and secondarily authorize payment to the MERS Healthcare Savings Program by accepting a budget revision in the amount of $18,100. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are two recommendations in discussion with the city attorney. That's one motion. Commissioner Lynn?
So
You have a
we can
question?
take those 2 to 1 then.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I so move the city resolution, excuse me, for the firefighters PHP and the MERS participation agreement and payment to the MERS Healthcare Savings Program by accepting budget revision in the amount of $18,100.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Boswitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item E under the city manager's report would provide authorization to adjust city health care thresholds effective January 1st, 2017. The City Commission, in accordance with various collective bargaining agreements and established practice, has previously defined thresholds for the amount of money the city will expend on a monthly basis to offer each of its employees and their dependents, as applicable, with health care. Specifically, the thresholds currently in place provide that the city will contribute monthly $493 for employees receiving single coverage, $1,019 for employees receiving two-person coverage, and $1,274 for employees receiving family coverage. As commissioners are additionally aware, a special health determining committee consisting of various representatives from the city's employees has worked over the course of the past 9 to 10 years to research and select healthcare plans that are offered to city employees, to evaluate the cost of such healthcare plans, and to evaluate the defined thresholds in relation to the cost of selected plans. Included commissioners will find information detailing the 3 healthcare plans selected by the Special Health Determining Committee for the city's employees. It should be noted that employees selecting either the mid-range plan or the high plan must pay the difference between the monthly premium for their selected plan and the established threshold for their level of coverage. It should also be noted that the committee has worked to continue to provide a buy-up option for dental coverage. As detailed within the included information, effective January 1st, 2017, the monthly premium of the core plan for single coverage is projected to be $432.63. The monthly premium for two-person coverage, $1,030.86, and the monthly premium for family coverage, $1,306.11. The projected monthly premiums for both the selected two-person coverage and family coverage exceed the current thresholds by a modest amount. It is also important to note that the core plan benefits would be increased this year, so that after plan deductibles have been met, the amount of certain costs shared by employees would decrease from 30% to 0. City administration supports this enhancement as it can be achieved at a cost that falls within the established budget for the current fiscal year, and it is important for attracting and retaining employees, as well as the fact that the current deductible on the plan is approximately $5,000 and employees contribute still to the plan. Accordingly, City Administration is recommending that the City Commission raise the threshold for two-person coverage from $1,019 to $1,031 and raise the threshold for family coverage from $1,274 to $1,307 while keeping the existing single coverage threshold of $493 in place. As another important note, the annual costs connected to these thresholds are very competitive with and less than the hard caps that are provided for in Public Act 152 of 2011, being the Publicly Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act. Accordingly, it's my recommendation that the City Commission authorize an increase in the monthly threshold for two-person coverage from $1,019 to $1,031, and that it authorize an increase in the monthly threshold for family coverage from $1,274 to $1,307 while retaining the existing threshold of $493 for single coverage in place. And as noted in the fiscal effects, this would be absorbed and included within the currently established budget. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Gary.
I would make a motion to approve the city manager's recommendation.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item F under the City Manager's report would provide authorization to execute a tax tribunal and appeal joint defense agreement. As commissioners are aware, the Michigan Tax Tribunal within recent years has adopted what has been termed the dark store theory of property valuation. In regards to this theory is a sharp disagreement over the most appropriate and fair method for determining the true cash values of big box stores. Local governments commonly prefer the cost approach, which determines true cash values by calculating the amount it would cost to replace a building and subtracting the value of depreciation. Its use has been backed by court decisions. It is frequently considered to be the most reliable method for setting values for special use sites, and it has contributed to predictability in the assessing profession. In contrast, many owners of big box stores currently prefer the use of the sales comparison approach, which is used to determine true cash values by comparing a parcel to the values at which similar properties within surrounding areas have sold for recently. Customarily, distressed sales such as foreclosures are discarded from this method because they are not seen as valid comparisons. However, certain large commercial retailers frequently place a considerable number of deed restrictions on their properties to limit future retail uses in an effort to block competition, effectively creating what could be viewed as a distressed comparable. These deed restrictions can significantly devalue such properties and limit the scope of potential purchasers within the free market for such sites, even when such possible reuses are lawful and in step with community zoning. The use of the sales comparison approach under the dark store theory depends upon the use of comparable properties by the owners of these commercial facility stores that act to allow property owners to have their profitable and open large spaces valued as if they were vacant, abandoned, and deed restricted, or as dark stores. An important argument that also underscores this theory is that such properties can only be used for their constructed use, despite the fact that many of these stores can be resold to other retailers. This has upended decades of established precedent and provided an opportunity for such stores to receive substantial tax refunds and property value reductions. In fact, since 2013, local governments throughout Michigan have had to refund nearly $75 million to large retailers due to the Michigan Tax Tribunal's embrace of the dark store theory. Locally, taxing jurisdictions within Chippewa County have had to refund over $109,000 due to matters involving the dark store theory, with the city government itself absorbing tens of thousands of dollars in legal and professional cost in regards to such appeals. As a note, the city has taken the position that while it encourages sustainable and responsible economic development and wealth creation, ensuring equity in taxation is paramount to protecting the fabric of the community. It is not the intent of the city to specifically denigrate individual companies, but to challenge the application of the dark store theory of property valuation from a policy perspective and advocate for an appropriate legislative correction. The city's most prominent tax appeal that is likely to be considered by the Michigan Tax Tribunal in the near future is the case Walmart Real Estate Business versus City of Sault Ste. Marie. Should the city not prevail at the Michigan Tax Tribunal or achieve a favorable settlement in this case, the community stands to lose a substantial amount of funds through mandatory reimbursements. While this case is specific to the 2015 tax year, the ultimate outcome from this case and other future related cases could potentially translate to an annual loss for the city exceeding $100,000. This loss in taxable value would require years to recover from because of Proposal A. Recognizing that an issue with such major ramifications for the community requires a communal response, city administration has been working with other local units of government to review the included and presented tax tribunal and appeal joint defense agreement, through which local units of government could financially contribute to the defense that would be mounted at the Michigan Tax Tribunal level and, as warranted, through Michigan's appellate courts, subject to the terms and provisions of the agreement. Recently, the Chippewa County Board of Commissioners approved participation in this agreement to share 33% of costs as would be provided for the agreement. The city has also been in discussions with a number of other local units, such as the EUP ISD and Chippewa County Road Commission, to determine if they are able to support this effort to promote equity in taxation. Certainly, the significant support from Chippewa County, its Board of Commissioners, and Administrator CFO Jim German is welcome as a coalition on this matter is being formed. Accordingly, it's my recommendation that the City Commission authorize the City Manager to execute the included and presented agreement in its substantially presented form after all participating local units of government and their associated levels of financial contribution have been confirmed. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Okay, thank you. City Commission, Commissioner Lynn.
I've got a question for the city attorney. I'd like to thank the county for getting on board recently, but how many years has the city been working on this over Walmart?
We started in the 13 tax year, so we would have started that appeal probably in 13. The 14 tax year, both 13 and 14 have been resolved. This is the 15 tax year. So for a period of 3 tax years, we've been defending the city's interests in the Michigan Tax Tribunal.
So we've been at this for quite a while.
Yes.
So move the city manager's recommendation.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Further questions? Just to also reiterate the fact that we certainly appreciate the governmental entities that have Chippewa County in particular has stepped up to help the going forward with the tax tribunal. And we would encourage the other folks that the city managers mentioned if they could also come on board, because this, we all know that big box stores have some deep pockets, and it's a devastation that could occur. And we've been pretty fortunate, I think I can speak for the city administration. 13 and 14 ended up being a fairly decent acceptance by Walmart. And now we're going into 15, and we are a long way away from where we would hope to be. And going forward, we will, go to tax tribunal and argue our case. And again, we appreciate the help from our partners. City Manager, any further comments at all?
Certainly, this, as noted within the memorandum, is a community issue, but we're seeing throughout the state of Michigan this is becoming even more prolific than it has since 2013. As noted, there is an effort to address this from a policy perspective. The legislation, its chances have seemed to stall in the legislature. So, as the city and the county and any other partner position themselves to address this, it's against the backdrop of potential legislation that has stalled out.
Okay. Commissioner Tuardi?
Thank you. This might just be maybe the right opportunity to take to just explain like the agreement that we have with Meyer moving forward, because a lot of people in the community are really concerned that now we're going to be fighting with Meyer also.
That's a good point.
Thank you, Commissioner Tuardi. The development agreement with Meyer provided for approximately $1.5 million in public infrastructure improvements. 80% of those improvements were funded by Meyer, and 20% the city indicated that it would reimburse to Meyer as long as its taxable value stayed above a certain threshold. In the event that Meyer were to appeal its taxable value, then the city would no longer reimburse Meyer for those improvements, and they would absorb the cost for those improvements.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lynn, do you have a question?
I think there's several box store companies that are doing this in Michigan, but if I understand that wherever there's a Walmart store in Michigan, this is what's happening. Is that true, City Manager?
Thank you, Commissioner Lynn, for that question. I do know specifically within the Upper Peninsula, this has affected almost every Walmart, and certainly in the in downstate, it has affected a significant number of them, if not a majority.
Thank you.
Over time, I believe that it will involve every large commercial facility, not specific to Walmart, but also including, for example, Lowe's or Home Depot, Menards, and others.
Thank you.
Any further questions? We have a motion and support. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tuarty?
Yes.
Mayor Boswitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item G, under the city manager's report, would provide for the approval of certain calcium chloride brine pump improvements at the Puller Community Building. On this matter, I've requested that Parks and Recreation Director Wires present to the city commission.
Okay, thank you. Evening, Dan.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. On this issue, I have a little bit of background information, certainly would like to share with all of you, and it starts with the Puller refrigeration plant and our asset management that we've been working on with that. As we all know, and the community knows, we've completed some renovation projects that are just getting wrapped up, and we've been doing that for a couple of years. But at the same time, we've been working on our refrigeration plant, our piping, and started last year when we had a initial inspection from Associated Refrigeration. And when they came, they really took a look at our refrigeration portion of the Puller. And since then, through Vilter Manufacturing, we've been diligent on replacing, repairing, updating the refrigeration plant. Some of the things that we've done last year, we rebuilt, reconditioned one of the compressors that hadn't been done in 15 plus years. Replaced old check valves, pressure relief valves from back in the 80s. So we are constantly working on this, and this has been part of the kind of the movement towards an asset management plan. And going forward, some items that we're going to be working on is the calcium chloride motors and the pumps, and those were first on the list for this coming budget year. A condensing tower that's over 27 years old, our compressors on a 5-year cycle where one would be rebuilt and one would be reconditioned. A chiller barrel is over 27 years old, and we kind of are very proud of it, and it's certainly a good thing, as our floor is original. It's over 70 years old. So these are some items, but for our asset management, it is taking shape and is on track and is going to be put into our 6-year CIP, some bigger items going forward. Unfortunately, one of the brine, we have 2 brine pumps, and one of them we're in much need of, and it's kind of pushing that forward. As a memo that was distributed, we have 2 old Westinghouse pumps that are at the plant, and from our understanding, they haven't made these since the 1950s. And obviously, they don't make them like that anymore. You can't buy them like that anymore. So we do have some older equipment there, and many times it's even better. But our age, they're showing their age, and they're starting to tell us that. And certainly the second pump, the motor that's on that is a 1940 era pump or a motor on this. So one of the things that we're starting to see, and I want to certainly make sure the commission is aware of it, talked to Tim Corsel today from Positive Energy and also Cloverland Electric Cooperative. We've seen that we may have some harmonic distortion going on, some electrical power issues. Tomorrow morning at the Puller, Brian Levy, Paul Warner, and those folks are going to be at the Puller. We're going to look at setting a potential power load recorder and meter so that we can find out what is going on if there's a power issue of some sort. But it is certainly something that's affecting our brine pumps. And over the weekend, when Associated Refrigeration was here, we did put into the system. We did fix one of our motors, but it is still something that's not, it's an old, the old pump, but we still have operation. But it's to the point where it's starting to fail. And again, I'm coming before the commission to look for a calcium chloride pump and motor for one of these so that at least we can get through this season. Certainly going to budget for that in the upcoming season for one new piece. And this again was planned through the prioritization to be put on the 6-year CIP for this coming budget year. What I did give you is cost estimates, rough cost estimates for a motor and a pump, some electrical work, some concrete work, and a temporary frame. Now I know that and there's a cost of $27,000, and I would recommend that we approve up to that. There is certainly some savings that we can get. Once we get into it, we have some very good folks here that can do some concrete work. We're going to do everything we can to get some savings. But the big piece will be is to get another pump, a newer pump and a newer motor that will be part of this. This is not a temporary fix. This is more of a long-term fix as part of our asset management, but it's something that kind of crept up on us sooner than later. We couldn't get to the next budget year, unfortunately, so this is one of them, one of two that we'd like to replace sooner than later.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Commissioner Twardy?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I like how you keep saying asset management, because that is a really good term to use specifically in this instance. And I think rather than waiting until everything needs to come due at once, we're better off splitting it all out, because we've already put all this money into the puller. We want to make sure that we're keeping up to date on all the maintenance and all of the repairs and equipment as we go along, and not one giant bill at the end. Number two, is this part of the reason? So a couple of the Eagle Boys are being billeted at my house this year, and a couple of the Eagle Boys were saying that on Friday morning when they had practice, that the nets were literally frozen into the ice. And is this part of the reason that maybe the brine pump
There
is
is some,
going?
some of the controls. We've got some new employees that are down there, but we're working through the controls, and certainly yes, we had our Associated Refrigeration was here on Friday and also here on Saturday. Spent a better part of Saturday there. So this is something where actually the brine motor just stopped, and we're thinking it's a breaker issue. It's not a breaker issue. So the ice quality has been good, but it's not been as good as we'd like. But I think by the time game time came around, it was.
Yeah, it was all fixed. Yeah. Thank you.
City Manager, you'd like to, anything else you'd like to include?
Thank you, Mayor. For purposes of clarification, and this has been confirmed by City Attorney, there are two specific motions to this. The first would be to waive the bidding requirement, as this is an emergency repair with no advantage for bidding. And the second would be those three recommendations contained within the memorandum that's been presented. First, authorize the budget for the purchase in the amount up to $27,000. Secondarily, to authorize the transfer of $23,100 from the contingency fund and transfer $3,900 from the puller equipment repair and maintenance account to cover the purchase. And third, to authorize city administration to complete the work through Associated Refrigeration as appropriate within the approved budget.
Okay. So there are two recommendations. Commissioner Lynn, would you like to waive the bidding procedure?
Before that,
Ask a question.
these Westinghouse pumps, that must have been the original ones. You're talking 40s, it was built in 39.
A few years back, we replaced all the gate valves. We had a project down there, the commission approved that. Pumps stayed, but the gate valves all got changed. But those pumps have been there.
Is it the building with?
They may be original. They very well may be.
They've given good service, I think.
They have, and the one motor that we're having problems with is an old cast iron motor that has lots of protection, and you can't really buy those so much anymore. We went and bought one that was heavier duty than that one, but it's all the new electronics type things. But the one that's there, we'd have to look at something a little bit heavier duty. But certainly some of that equipment is either original or close to it.
If you notice, a lot of the items tonight on the agenda, because we're old, and we're now starting to get everything up to where it should be, which is a great thing to do. I know for many years we didn't have any money to upgrade stuff, but evidently we do right now. That's wonderful. So move that we waive the bidding process.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Any special conditions for the waive? 7-0 or 6-0? 6-0 for to waive the bidding procedures. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosbus?
Yes.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Okay, and then the other three recommendations can be handled in one motion. Commissioner Lynn?
So move the Dan Wires and city manager's recommendations.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Bosbus?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
That concludes the city manager's report. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7 are status reports.
Item A under status reports is pertains to the waterfront redevelopment study, public open house, and stakeholder meetings. On this matter, City Engineer DeSista is presenting.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'll be brief, and I'm not going to ask for any money. Tomorrow, as part of the waterfront redevelopment study, our consultants will be here from 4 to 7 here in the City Commission chambers to hold an open house, come anytime between 4 and 7, to get public input on the potential future uses for Alfred Park, Carbide Dock, and Harvey Marina. Those are the 3 properties that are part of our study. And then the following day, we will continue on in small session meetings with various stakeholders that include Army Corps of Engineers, the Coast Guard, Customs and Border Protection, National Guard, in the Interlake Steamship Company. We have them lined up, and American Steamship Company as well. So we'll have all the players associated with the Carbide Dock for stakeholder meetings with them on Wednesday. But for the public, 4 to 7. And then we'll follow up with an online survey. So if you can't make the open house, still be able to participate online. So look for that survey probably Wednesday or Thursday.
So tomorrow afternoon and evening, 4 to 7.
4 to 7.
Open house.
Open
for
house.
Discussion, public stakeholders meeting for waterfront redevelopment study for Alfred Park, Carbide Dock, and Harvey Marina.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all.
Any questions?
Yeah.
No. Commissioner Lynn has a question.
You know, over the years, and the mayor and I have been here a long time, there's been a ton of studies done up and down the river, but I think, maybe you can back me up in this, this is the first one that's really taken everything into, what do you want to say?
Under one umbrella? type of
Right,
thing?
and
Yes.
then the factions that are coming in, the different entities, I don't ever remember having that before on a study on the waterfront, which is nice to see. If you got the shipping coming in, maybe we can do something with that dock and that lock, who knows?
Yes. Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Certainly appreciate City Engineer Basista's work on this, as well as other staff that have contributed to this project, and Smith Group JGR. Item B under status reports pertains to the EDC's open house, and EDC Director Jeff Holt is here to update the commission and community.
Great. Evening, Jeff.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Thanks for having me once again. Just a reminder for everyone that October 12th is our open house for the EDC Smart Zone Breeder Building on Meridian Street. We still get people that see me and say, what the heck is that building and what do you do? Well, this is an opportunity for potential business owners, funding agencies, and the public to come in and see what we do. We'll have food and refreshments, and I brought flyers for the commission and for the crowd as well. And I hope we can all turn out. We've been working on this for several months, and it's going to happen next week. So 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and we're hoping that our mayor will kick us off that evening on a positive note. Dr. Plager from Lake State will also say a few words, and we'll hopefully have everybody there to show off our home.
Great.
So
That's Wednesday, October the 12th?
yes,
Okay. From 5 to 8?
5 to 8, and I've got the copies here. I'll pass it around.
Any questions?
And I'll leave copies by the door for anyone that would like to. If you have any questions, you can give me a call at 635-9131 or check out our website at www.suedc.com. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. We know you've been very busy up there, and things are moving along very well, so it'd be great to go through it. And
We hope to have some exciting news in the next few months.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you Wednesday. Okay, item number 8. That concludes the status report.
It does. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Thank you. Item number 8, matters presented by the public. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to make a comment at this time? Yes, sir. If you'd like to come to the, yes. That's so folks at home can also hear what you have to say. If you'd introduce yourself, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. My name is Cliff Pattinson. I'm the student liaison from the Lake Superior State Student Government to the State Commission of Sault Ste. Marie. On behalf of a member of the student community at Lake Superior State, I would like to recognize that there will be a kickball tournament coming up on October 22nd. This will be put on by the Lake Superior State University chapter of Fire Science Professional Alliance. They'll be featuring 8-person teams. Each team will pay a fee of $60, which would be $10 a person. Individuals can sign up for the event, and then they can be assigned to a team if they haven't already. The fee for this will include a meal ticket, which is good for a hamburger or hot dog along with a bag of chips. The proceeds for this will 50% of the proceeds will go to charity of the winning team's choice. The other 50% will go to the Fire Science Professional Alliance Fund for continuing education and training in the field of fire science. This will take place on October 22nd. Sign-in will be at 10:45 a.m. The cookout will begin at 11 a.m. and then the tournament will begin at noon. If you have any further questions about this matter, please contact Ms. Shelby Smith at smith44@lssu.edu. That concludes that announcement, but just on a general announcement, next weekend is Great Lakes State Weekend, October 14th through 16th. Lake Superior State University hockey team will be playing Michigan State, which is a very high-profile match for this community. I encourage any fans that come to this. These 2 games are coming up next weekend. There will be a parade going through the Lake State campus that Saturday morning, and also there will be a tailgate at least Saturday, possibly Friday as well. If you have any questions, please contact me, and then of course for the tournament, please contact Ms. Shelby Smith. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
Just a comment. I was at the game on Sunday against Laurentian.
Yes.
And it's an exciting time for Lake State hockey. It looks like the team has a lot of skilled players. I will say that if they could mention to the students, I think they wanted to encourage them to sit in sections A, B, C, and D.
Yes.
And there were students kind of sitting all around, but if they want to do that publicly and on the announcement, it might help students understand that that's where you want to kind of focus near the visitor's bench, like many other university arenas tend to do to cause a little chaos at times, just in fun. But loudness is important in an arena, and but it was a good game, and Lake State certainly they ended up losing it in a shootout, but had 50-some shots on goal, and it was an excellent game against a pretty good Laurentian team.
It was a very exciting game. I'm very proud of the turnout that we had for this game, even though it was just an exhibition game per se. But very strong student turnout and good community turnout as well. Very excited for the season to come.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9, matters presented by the City Commission. Commissioner Twardy.
It's so funny because we always want to talk about the same things. So I was going to talk about how the Lakers kicked off their season, although it was exhibition with Laurentian last weekend. And me being a goalie mom, I heard that the goaltending was just stellar and that we have a really good team this year moving forward. Damon Winton, I'm sure, and Mitro, they put together just a really solid team this year. I'm really excited about it. However, this weekend is their blue and gold game, and Commissioner Gage might even want to just elaborate a little bit more, but I do believe that it is a fundraiser for our local United Way, and so that is on Saturday at 1 p.m., And it's a great game to go out and catch. If you haven't been to Lake State hockey in a little while, I think this is going to be the year that we really rally behind that team and really get the community outreach back in that arena. Because, I mean, I miss those days back in the 90s when we used to just rock that house. In the 80s, they were so good back then. So let's do that this year.
Well, we all know it's going to take wins. You'll get folks ending up in the arena if they have a winning season, and wins are hard to come by in any venue, let alone speaking of hockey, the Eagles end up beating the Thunderbirds here on Saturday night at the Polar Stadium, but and lost over there the night before. But we have a lot of hockey going on, a lot of skating going on in this community. Certainly Hiawatha Skating Club also, just to mention that. So a lot of venues, a lot of falls here, and it's beautiful, and it continues to be very busy in the city of Sault Ste. Marie and the surrounding area. Anyone else? Commissioner Gage.
On that same note, you guys kind of said it all about hockey, but in terms of the student section, I'll tell you, in my experience, trying to get the students to go into one section versus another is a lot like herding cats. It's very, very difficult. Yeah. It's so hard. But that's a good suggestion. I'll make sure to pass that along.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Lynn.
Speaking of wins, I know how tough it is to get wins. All you have to do is watch the Detroit Lions. Okay? Move to adjourn.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.